Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on the communication style of a female psychopath and the apparent sort of deviousness or duplicity of this. A female psychopath is someone who is really taking advantage of their gender in a lot of respects, and then these sort of global, just sort of universal assignments that I guess what Carl Jung would call the collective unconscious. He feels that people, will, all of a sudden, automatically ascertain about them, and use this collective unconscious to further blind others to what they're doing so that they can carry on with their life, business as usual, getting what they want, sort of being very callous and cold, and really the absence of feeling, the absence of emotionality, and sort of that abstract of love, warmth, sort of caring, that it's a sort of a feeling. And you might not feel this warmth really with a female psychopath. So, a lot of the collective unconscious, though, might say a lot about women. Women are, the ones who raise the children. They're the one with the heart. They, are the more emotional, the caring, the nurturing. So, you might have all these different collective unconscious sort of, I think what Carl Jung would call the, personas. And he had these sort of archetypes. But I believe, of course, there's gender-specific roles, that men are stronger. They've got, more musculature than women. Based on their hormones and all the other neurochemicals and the way that things are processed, the way they process language, and, what they then bring to the table and then what they need brought to the table. So the problem with a female psychopath is this sort of communication that takes advantage of, I feel, of this sort of collective unconscious. And that, the woman is, warm, or the one with the heart, or the one who cooks, or whatever it is that you sort of are bringing unquestioned into the relationship that could be causing you to not see the reality. And the addiction to these type of people will override the reality. So it really does become a relationship that is addictive. There's a feeling, a tension that is met by this individual, which then is different from all others. Oftentimes it is vastly different. So a lot of these men feel, wow, I've met the woman of my dreams. This life can't get any better than this. There can't be a better woman. All these things are going through their mind, but they don't realize that this very reaction is the causative feature by the manipulation of the female psychopath, which means that you would never question them, second guess them, that they wouldn't have more than one relationship, that they wouldn't have the capacity to do this to somebody. So they oftentimes don't see the very red flags, or they are very dismissive. And they just chalk it up to, oh, this is just normal communication. With the female psychopath, they don't have the same language and emotions and sort of, I would say, sentence structure or typical things that they would bring up in communication that others would. So especially for target for you, is the very thing that gives you power, identity, just sort of a clarity of personality, just sort of who you are, the real you. The one who loves what you love. You might love jogging, you might love sitting around, you might love reading, you might love movies, but whatever it is, that main thing that you kind of feel makes you you. That is your kind of, I don't want to say your pride and joy, but kind of what, who you are about. You might have something. You might have a great laugh. You might be a great storyteller. You might be very intelligent. You might be a wonderful cook. All these different things. You kind of know, what is your wheelhouse. So the female psychopath will kind of yank the wheel right off the truck. But you won't recognize it because you feel like you're flying. You don't realize that the wheels have come off. And it'll be very difficult to land because they'll kind of strip you of your landing gear. You'll in other words, the direction and the focus of your life just will, all of a sudden, you don't realize it, but it'll be rerouted according to what oftentimes will tear you down, deplete your energy, deplete your sanity, deplete your reputation, deplete your, ruin your chance at life. I mean, these big sweeping situations. Our topic, our focus for a female psychopath. I mean, they go for a lot. they go for the big, hit to the gut. They go for the big whack, behind the knees. They go for the, you didn't know that I had eyes in the back of my head situation. And so the very things that you love, you'll find that in a very pandering way, they'll say that they sort of love the opposite. They'll love the opposite. And it's very subtle. But you'll find that, little by little, you'll sort of lose grip of your I am, your identity. It's the identity, the identity corrosion that begins to kind of infiltrate the relationship, and then more so infiltrate your mind, your mindset, your thoughts, your decisions, your emotions, and then your ultimate behaviors. And then so people all of a sudden find that they're wanting to do these different things that they never would have done before. Why would I start turning vegetarian after I have, all this meat and, all these different things that they would never expect themselves to do. They always love, doing this in the morning, and all of a sudden they can never get up in the morning. They love reading, and the next thing they can't read another word. They have been a good saver. Next thing you know, they've emptied out their accounts, or they've moved. All these things that they have sort of made their I am, and then it feels, like you're pursuing the next level of happiness. But realize that the female psychopath, because they lack a conscience, they lack the way that their wiring is. They don't sort of have this sort of morality, a conscience of right or wrong. In other words, all that really matters is getting them ahead or negatively affecting others, because for some reason this negative adverse impact to others, to see others screaming, flailing, worried, lets them know that they are effective. So this is how I feel a female psychopath, they do this because they feel they're having an impact, they feel effective, they feel that they're the one in control, and that they then feel that, untouchable, irreproachable. In other words, they're the one calling the shots. They're the puppet master. And it's very insidious. It's a little bit difficult to explain the female psychopath communication, but right as, you might just start like something really early in the morning. You might start a sunrise club, or, you might be starting to get out and walking, or you're gardening, or you're juicing, or whatever it is that you're into. And, as a man, you might find that this is your vacation time, or, what have you. And then specific things that you love, and then you'll find that they are subtly weaving into communication that they sort of love the opposite. That the opposite is what it's about. And then you find that you no longer have that same enthusiasm or joy for what it is that you normally pursue, that's automatic, giving you the healthy juice. In other words, your healthy behaviors then slowly become extinguished because they're seen as not desirable by the female psychopath, and then based on the addiction, so to keep that addiction in place, people will do a lot of things which oftentimes are counterintuitive to their own wellness, which means, losing their job for a silly reason, losing their bank account, depleting their files, whatever it is that they've done, that has made them feel that they have to do a specific behavior that is counterintuitive to what you need to take your truth and grab it to the next level. They're going to make sure that you're you're not focused on that at all, and that you're sort of still drinking the Kool-Aid, which means you're still perceiving things a way that the female psychopath wants you to perceive things. That is the problem, is that you give up the right to your own perception, your own values, your own I am, your own OMG. It becomes replaced, by this relationship, which becomes like a drug. It's very difficult because it doesn't have that real human quality. It's very inhuman, which means it's sort of removed of humanity. So that's part of the problem, and that people don't want to see it, grasp it, acknowledge it, validate it. This can't be so they just push it away, or they go further into denial and then get further away from their happiness. It's a very insidious thing, that the emotional content of their language does not have the emotional content. It does not, they don't feel love. They don't feel compassion. They don't feel responsibility. In other words, if there were to be an emergency, would they know what to do for you? These are really big questions to ask, but the female psychopath will mimic and present a facade as if, that is designed specifically to sort of fill in the cracks of your, just sort of your needs, your vulnerabilities, and to make you feel, oh, you don't have to worry about that at all. I will be here for you. But yet, as soon as you relax and, let your guard down, or think, you're in the love bombing stage, you don't realize that this person is just telling you what you want to hear. They have no intention, no ability to back it up, but they just will get by on telling people what they want to hear, until you realize that they've gone, they're moved, they're not who you thought they were, just you don't recognize them. They act like they're, they've hurt you, and then they don't really recognize that they've hurt you at all. Or they might apologize, and then they do the exact same thing again. They have an inability to learn. Very strange when you've seen this. They just keep on, and they just try to keep, thickening up the mask a little bit so that you won't see them. Just sort of getting their manipulative communication a little bit more stepped up when you begin to figure them out. So it's a very insidious, very difficult type of communication to, I would say, extract yourself from, because it almost has like a suction. There's this physical energy, I would say, that the female psychopath exudes that is very magnetic. And you have to kind of suction yourself off. Literally, like, pull yourself off, because there becomes almost like an energetic vacuum, if you will. It's just the female psychopath will keep that going until that you're totally depleted, and then the pain is great enough. They don't, experience the same abstracts, like humanity, like brotherhood, like, doing something for the sake of doing good, not for getting something out of it. So there's always to be something gotten out of it. It becomes a real psychological problem when they then rearrange sort of your perception of things. Very difficult to communicate what this is like for people. Meaning the very things that you were desiring and going after that were energizing, they now have a way of communicating that is no longer desirable. It's hard to describe. It's very difficult, and I'm doing my best to give an example. You might say, you're really, when the weather changes and you really love doing something. I mean, this might be your season, your element, you might love boating, or you got a specific hobby that's like what you're all about it. And you'll find that they're in very subtle ways sort of communicating that they are in love with the opposite. So you might say you love, gardening. And next thing you know, they're talking about, in internal environments, like high-rises that have just beautiful interior, and like, let's go there the next morning, So little by little, they'll sort of get you off. It's very difficult. I mean, it's the switch is so radical. And so that you'll have this message, it's just sort of, it's like a bug in your ear, that they will sort of plant this to see if it will corrupt you. And that's a very, very strong word, but corrupting meaning sort of corrupting of your values, which means a value is something that you value, you put a value on, you know, meaning it's worth something to you, there's worth in it. So you have to realize what has worth to you, real worth. It doesn't have to mean monetary worth. It can mean spiritual worth, psychological worth, physical worth. But these will get rearranged very quickly. And then they'll get replaced by this sort of derision. Derision, I think, is the word that I'm coming up with. And let me just see why this is. Contemptuous ridicule or mockery. So in other words, the derision, a contemptuous ridicule or mockery. So they'll kind of just sort of begin to then mock the very thing that you love by just sort of embracing the opposite. It's very strange. But it's sort of like showing, it's a way to communicate a sort of a deep hatred, I think is what the word means. So it's like, and the example here is they're giving, it's like the feeling that opposing street gangs have of each other. So it's a way to, it's a real specific type of competition. It's like a very, very sick sort of competition with someone who feigns love. I mean, it's just a very, very, very difficult situation. Let's wrap up the video there. It's kind of a, you know, but so if you've experienced this, it's just sort of a very, it's like a love-hate, if you will, that becomes so physical and so palpable, but it's within you. And so oftentimes people then want to inflict self-harm, and then this sort of, their feelings run amok. It's a very, very torturous, terrorizing state. So if you're going through that, we totally get that here at the Peace and Harmony channel here. It can be very scary. It can turn your life upside down. It can, you know, make you feel as a man you don't know where your footing is. You don't know how to provide. Like all these things that make you a man, or if you're in a homosexual relationship with this person, you know, they might have tried to switch you, you know, and then corrupt you that way. I mean, there's all sorts of different things, you know, and so just please keep the faith. Know that this is their tactic of manipulation to get you off, to get you really into a form of self-doubt, but to a degree that it becomes just self-sabotage. Just you will dissociate oftentimes. So it's a very, very difficult state. So hang in there. Keep the faith. Keep the warmth. Keep the love. The feeling of humanity will be restored. Oftentimes, though, it's that removal of humanity that the female psychopath makes you feel that that is the path to be on, if this makes any sense to you. You know, just say, I get it. We are here for you. But find a way to be like a suction and realize that the force is very strong. You're going to have to really pull back and just say, even though this doesn't make sense, I'm going to go no contact. And I'm going to do this for a while and check out my gut feelings. And then you'll be able to see things more clearly. But go no contact for an hour, 2 hours, half a day, 1 day, 2 days. How long can you do it? Get yourself some time to allow things to simmer down. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace be with you, and have a beautiful day. You got this. Be well.